everyone, this is Jeremy of the East Coast EDH, and we're finally there. I finally did it. I finally did another deck tech. I've been talking about it for months. We're going to do Akroma, Vision of Ixidor, and Rograkh, Son of Rohgahh. I was inspired from Rachel Week's deck performance on game nights, where it was the first Boros deck to win on game nights. So I was like, wow, let's see if I can build something that's even close to as competitive as that was. So we're going to go through all the different kind of creatures, removal, protection spells, the value-added stuff that's going to help you draw cards and get a little extra land and mana into play, and buff spells. But yeah, so let's just jump right into it. We're going to start with our commanders and our ramp and how we're going to get this deck rolling. Hope you guys and gals enjoy the video. Now that we've got introductions out of the way, let's show off the commanders here, talk about what they do. Akroma, Vision of Ixidor, flying, first strike, vigilance, and trample for 7. At the beginning of combat, until end of turn, each other creature you control gets +1/+1 if it has flying, first strike, double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, protection, reach, trample, vigilance, and partner. Protection does not count for Shroud. Shroud does not fall under her realm of buffing to other creatures. Still super powerful. Then she has partner. And our partner here is Rograkh, Son of Rohgahh. I think that's how you say it. That's how a goblin would say it. I do have an etched foil coming in the mail. It was like $7 to replace this regular foil. 0 CMC, first strike, menace, trample, and partner. So if you have him out with Akroma, he goes from a 0/1 to a 4/5 with menace and trample. Also first strike. Pretty powerful. So now we've got the commanders introduced, we're going to get into the ramp part of the video. This is how you're going to get your commanders out. Not a huge fan of Tantalite, but red and white are not really good at ramping. The one thing I don't like about this, it gives your opponents time to counter it. They see the suspend, it's sitting there. So hopefully you're doing this at a point where it's not super necessary. But yeah, 0, it's free. Once again, Mox Amber, another 0 cost. This one I'm not a huge fan of. Works really good with Rograkh, Son of Rohgahh. They're both 0. So once you get Rograkh out, you're making red mana for free. So you can cast them both for 0. So that works really well. Mox Diamond, this is a proxy. I don't like using my super expensive cards. I do have it in my Gitrog deck, which I hardly play. There are cards in the deck. They're going to get lands into your hand. You don't need to do this on turn 1. This is more for turn 4, 5, 6. If you have extra lands in your hand, you can kind of sneak out Akroma, dropping in these 0 costs so your opponents don't see it coming. Soul Ring, don't need to talk about it. Cartographer's Hawk, playtesting. This thing is very good. As long as you're attacking someone who has more lands than you, you can return it to your hand. If you do, search your library for planes and put it onto the battlefield tapped. That does not count for your land for turn. You go in for combat, hit them, put a land into play. Second main phase, play your land from turn. Say you get this out on turn 2, attack on turn 3. So then you play your land for turn, you have 3. Then you have 4 lands on turn 3. And a red-white deck, Boros. I mean, crazy. Thought Vessel, 2 for 1. Once again, Boros, bad ramp. Same. But you can draw a card, so that's kind of cool. Diamond. Gift of Estates. This works pretty good with your Mox Diamond. Also, it thins out your deck. So as long as someone has more lands than you, say on turn 2, before your land drop, you can go search for lands and put them into your hand. Plains. But, yeah. Foil Diamond. Signet. I have these in here for now. One of them. No, 2 of them. Took out Ironcrag Feet. It's a 2 for 3. 1 mana ramp. Instant speed. Arcane Signet. Relic. If you happen to have 6 mana out, you'll get 3 of these. It's an indestructible, makes any color. So that's pretty good. Seething Song, 3 for 2. Same as the other. You get them both. Yeah, that is our introduction and our ramp portion of the video. We are now going to move on to creatures. All right, we are into the creature portion of our Akroma Rograkh deck tech video. Boros Guild Mage. I've never used this in the deck before. The ability to give creatures haste and first strike seems pretty good with Akroma, so we're going to give it a shot. Also, all these sections, even the previous one, I'm doing lowest CMC to highest, just to kind of show what kind of curve I think works best. You definitely want to stay within a 2, 3, 4 range with a few bombs. So we'll talk about that more as we go on. These aren't all the creatures, because I do have the video separated into how the cards work in the deck, not really just card type. Kelith, Sunmane Familiar. Whenever a commander you control attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And as partner. So if you get a Akroma out to 2/2, but you can start swinging the Rograkh, even as he's a 0/1, as long as there's no blockers, and start making it bigger. And it's a 2-drop. Silver Knight, first strike, pro red. With Chrome out, goes from a 2/2 to a 4/4 with first strike. And pro red, which could be okay. Black Knight might be better. We'll see. Swiftblade Vindicator, once again, works well with Akroma, double strike, vigilance, and trample. So once you get your Akroma commander out, he goes from a 1/1 to a 4/4 with double strike, vigilance, and trample. Kedis, Emberclaw Familiar. This one, debating. We'll see how it works. I would not play this until the end of the game, because whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. So yeah, you don't want to have this sitting out there. It's just going to make you a target. But end game, if you start getting a Akroma or Rograkh really big, and someone's, kind of sitting on the fringes, but you can't get to them, this could be the way to do it. Sneaky, sneaky. Verge Rangers. Another interesting land card. Has first strike, becomes a 4/4 with Akroma. You can look at the top card of your library anytime, regardless of the bottom rest of the text. As long as your opponent controls more lands than you, you can play lands from the top of your library. Wow. White, something for white that's like a little land rampy. Not huge, that's why I did not put this in the ramp section. But it kind of helps, and it helps you plan your game out. Kazul Toll's Collector. 3/2 for 3. 0. Attach target equipment you control to Kazul Toll Collector. You can only do this at sorcery speed. We will be getting into the point of the video later where this is really important. But 3/2 for 3. Skirmisher, 3 CMC, flying double strike. With Akroma out, becomes a 3/3 flying double strike. Responder, similar, flying vigilance lifelink. Comes a 5/6. You're going to start seeing a theme here. First strike, vigilance lifelink, or an equipment spells you cast, cost 1 less to cast. That's cool. That's a little added bonus just to go with all this. That works well with Akroma. Quendi, Pride of Femrith, double strike. Creatures you control with first strike have double strike. So if I'm reading that text correctly, they have both first and double strike, which would be an additional buff for each from Akroma. And he becomes a 3/3 for 4. Loyal Unicorn, Vigilance. This is a lieutenant for your commanders, either one. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, prevent all combat damage will be dealt to creatures you control this turn. Other creatures you control gain Vigilance. So, you can just start swinging with your big creatures at people's blockers, hoping to get rid of them, preventing them from attacking you. Or if you have ways of getting through for combat damage without being blocked, works really well with also leaving you blockers. Keeper of the Accord. This card, looks great. First text box. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more creatures than you, you get a 1/1 white soldier. Creature token. Okay. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more lands than you, you may search your library for a basic plains card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. That's each opponent's end step. If you have 3 opponents and they still happen to have more lands than you, you're getting 3 lands into play on from each other person's turn until your next turn. So you can go from 3 lands to, let's say, 6 lands in one round without really having to do anything. This could be really powerful. Blood Sworn Steward, 4 mana, flying. Commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have haste. So you have this, you get Rograkh. It adds an additional ability onto Rograkh. So he'll be getting +5/+5 from his abilities with an additional +2. That's +7/+7. And can attack the turn it comes into play. Odric. At the beginning of each combat, creatures you control gain first strike until end of turn. If a creature you control has first strike. Same is true for flying, death touch, double strike, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, skulk, trample, and vigilance. I don't think I need to explain this one, but it's going to make all your creatures really, really, really good if you have Akroma out. Urabrask. Creatures you control have haste. Creatures your opponents control come into play tapped. So if they have haste, they can attack. This one's kind of on the fence. I might swap it out with something else, but we'll see how it works for now. Brash Taunter, indestructible for 5 mana. When it is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent. Brash Taunter fights another target creature. So you can have this guy fight your creatures and just start slinging damage at your opponents without even having to attack them. This could be really powerful. We just talked about Rograkh getting +7/+7, making him a 7/8. This guy can fight Rograkh for, 1 damage. Oh, next card. We'll talk about that. And then sling 7 damage at target opponent. That's really, really powerful. Aurelia, the War Leader, classic Boros Angel. Flying, Vigilance, and Haste. She'll get a +3/+3 buff from Akroma. Whenever Aurelia, the War Leader, attacks, for the first time each turn, untap all creatures you control, and you get an additional combat phase. 6 CMC. This is one of 3 or 4 cards that have a higher CMC in the deck, this being the next one. But the benefit of getting it out, just huge. And that's including Akroma in that high CMC cost. Avacyn, Flying Vigilance. Avacyn, Angel of Hope, and other permanents you control have indestructible. I mean, if you're getting this out, you should pretty much have the game won. It's an iconic angel. This one could actually find its way out of the deck at some point. But in this alpha initial build, I just like the flavor of having her in there with Akroma. But yeah, that's our creatures. Next, we are going to be moving on to removal and protection spells. We are into the removal and protection spell portion of the video. Probably should not be using a textless card for a deck tech video, but Path to Exile, it's a pretty well-known card. 1 white mana, you can cast it at instant speed. Exile target creature. Its controller may put a land into the battlefield tapped. Really good for getting rid of pesky creatures. I didn't even think about it, so right now I guess you could Path Rograkh, put him back in the command zone to get yourself a land, and then cast him for 2, as long as it's the second time you're casting him. But yeah, generally use this on your own, your opponent's creatures. The art is just so cool. That's why I put the full art one in there. Swords of Plowshares, similar. Exile target creature's controller gains life equal to its power. Also castable at instant speed. Amazing art, love it. What do we got? Sam Wolf Connolly, that's cool. Red Elemental Blast. If only it was a beta black border to fit in with the rest of the cards that are black bordered, but counter target blue spell or destroy target blue permanent. There is nothing more satisfying when you're playing a white deck or Boros deck, pretty much anything without blue, and you're countering your opponent's counter spell or their huge blue bomb, their Ristic Study, their Omniscience. This is just fun. But it works really well too. It's only 1 red mana at instant speed. I recommend using these in any of your Boros mono red decks. Or red-green as well. It works. It's just, yeah, they really don't see it coming. Ride Down, instant, red and white. Destroy target blocking creature. Creatures that are blocked by that creature this combat gain trample until end of turn. So say you have a big army out, but you really don't have a lot of ways to get damage through, and your opponent has 1 giant blocker that's just kind of like, ruining everything for you. This is one good way to get rid of it, then still get damage through to your opponent, really setting them back quite a bit. This can also be used during combats on your opponent's turns. So you kind of sneak it in, and if someone's attacking the strongest player at the board, you can really give them a big hit by removing their creatures and making sure your opponent gets in for damage on them. Deflecting Palm. a red and a white once again. The next time a source of your choice would deal damage to me this turn, me being you, so, as the card says, if damage is prevented this way, deflecting palm deals that much damage to that source's controller. So if someone's swinging at you once again, they're playing mono green, they've got some huge ramped out creature, or a bunch of them, even if you're not going to win, at least you can kind of knock them down a peg for swinging you out with their Avenger and their new Kamal and their overruns and Crater Hoof Behemoths. And you might even be able to take them out with you. So there's no better way to go down than to go down swinging. Ideally, I'd like to use this to win a game, though. Just saying. Boros Charm. So this falls more into the protection side of the game, but it's really versatile in this deck. You can almost take out a Planeswalker. Permanents you control gain indestructible, saving them from board wipes. And target creature gains double strike until end of turn, which works well with Akroma. So if you're swinging through flying damage, you can really get in for a big hit. This is more for the indestructible, but use it as needed. Leave. Return any number of target permanents you own to your hand. This works more with like target removal and really like Akroma. If like you're gonna lose her, casting her for 9 for the second cast is just really, really bad. So you can return any number of permanents you control to your hand if there's some sort of board wipe or austere command or exiling spell going on. Kind of protects them. Then the aftermath is cool too. So say you have a full grip. We were talking about putting a lot of lands in our hands earlier. Later in the game, you're probably not going to need them. So you can discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards. So it's a 2-for-1. Split cards usually aren't that great, but I could see it being useful in the deck. Swiftfoot Boots. Equipped creature is hexproof and haste. Equipped for 1. This gives 2 buffs from Akroma as long as she's out, and also protects her if you put them on her. Lightning Greaves. Classic card. 2 CMC colorless artifact equipment. Equip cost 0. Equipped creature has haste and shroud. Shroud will not trigger Akroma, but the haste will if you're putting it on another creature. Or it's just a protection for Akroma, so she can't be targeted with, say, Swords of Plowshares. Spirit Mantle. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has protection from creatures. This you want to use, I wouldn't say more on Akroma, but for a creature you want to get through for big, big damage. And if it has protection from creatures, it cannot be blocked. Unquestioned Authority. Enchant creature. 3 and 2 colorless. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Enchanted creature has protection from creatures. Once again, useful for getting through for damage. Flawless Maneuver. If you control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. This is just for saving your board. Like I said, once you get Akroma out or some of the higher CMC creatures, it's tough getting them back out again. Teferi's Protection. Until your next turn, your life total can't change. You have protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. And you exile Teferi's Protection for 3 and 2 colorless. Once again, protection. In this deck, I think your creatures are going to be strong enough where you don't need to be doing board wipes, but you do need to be protecting your creatures. I think that's the biggest part of this deck. We'll see if that's true later on. If I do some revamps or edits, maybe I'll show what cards I take out to add more removal spells like Wrath of Gods or Austere Commands. But for right now, I'm just focusing on protecting the creatures in the deck. Akroma's Will. This one's really cool. It's a white and 3 colorless. Choose one. If you control a commander, as you cast a spell, you can choose both. Creatures you control gain flying, vigilance, and double strike until end of turn. Or, creatures you control gain lifelink, indestructible, and protection from all colors from end of turn. So, if you control either of your commanders, you choose both modes. If you control both your commanders, your opponents are in for a big turn from you. Hammer of Nazan. An equipment spell for 4 colorless mana. When it or another equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach that equipment to target creature you control. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0 and has indestructible. So the equip cost would be 4 if it is removed from the initial creature when it enters the battlefield. This is going to work well with some synergies we're going to be showing a little bit that are used to buff up your creatures and really make Akroma's main text box the big part of this deck. Return to Dust, a 4 CMC removal. 2 white, 2 colorless. A little on the higher end, but if you're casting this during your main phase, you get to exile target artifact or enchantment. Then you do it again during the main phase. If you're doing this in instant speed during an opponent's turn, or say during your combat, you only get to remove 1. So it's best to use this either during your first or second main phase. And this is going to be one of the higher CMC cost creatures in the deck. It's 2 white, 4 colorless, flying. When this enters the battlefield, destroy all tapped creatures. So there is a removal spell in here, but it's also a creature because Akroma likes creatures. And it destroys all tapped creatures. So if, say, your opponents had 2 big attack phases during their turns, you're going to wipe the board and come out very clean. But yeah, that is going to be our removal protection portion of the video. Next, we are going to be moving on to kind of buffing your creatures and really getting the most out of both of your commanders' abilities. Alright, so now we're getting to the value portion of the video. This is where you're getting your buffing, your additional mana, some card draw. We're going to start with Opal Palace. Taps for a colorless. It's a land, so there's no casting cost. Pay 1 tap. Add 1 mana of any color in your commander's identity. If you spend this mana to cast your commander, enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it, equal to the number of times it's been cast from the command zone this game. So this is separate for each commander. You can't cast Rograkh a bunch of times and have Akroma enter with a bunch of counters. But Rograkh is probably going to die a few times. In his low casting cost, it's really not that big of a deal. And you're actually getting more value out of it each time you cast them, because it'll enter with that many counters. You can't use it the first time you cast them, but each additional cast, he will enter with that many additional +1/+1 counters. So this will actually work pretty good in the deck. Slayer Stronghold. Land, 0 CMC, taps for a colorless. Pay a red and a white, tap it. Target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. It also gains vigilance and haste. So this is a good way, once Akroma's out, or even when casting Akroma, to give her haste an additional buff, or other creatures in your deck 2 additional buffs, plus a +2/+2. Sunhome, Fortress of the Legion. The Boros Legion, that is. Land, taps for colorless. Pay a red, a white, and 2 colorless. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. There's a few instances of double strike in the deck, but hey, who doesn't like double strike? Rogue's Passage. Land, taps for a colorless. Pay 4 and tap it. Target creature cannot be blocked this turn. This is huge for getting through with your big creatures. Then also the creature I mentioned earlier that allows you to deal damage to each of your opponents if it's dealt damage by a commander. So that's pretty much what this is in here for. Sigarda's Aid. Enchantment. 1 white. You may cast or equipment spells as though they had flash, which means you can cast them during other people's turns in response to things happening, your cards being removed, other creatures enter the battlefield. Whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach it to target creature you control. That's really good. You're going to see coming up why. There's protection, there's buffs, same thing with the auras. There's indestructible, it's a protection from creatures, so say you're blocking and you give your protection from creatures, your creature will take no damage. So this is a really important card of the deck. Rogue's Glove, this is some value. 2 drop equipment, 2 to equip. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you can draw a card. Who does not like drawing cards? There's probably the best way to win games is to make sure you're drawing cards. Tome of Legends. 2 colorless mana, artifact. It enters the battlefield with a page counter on it. When your commander enters the battlefield or attacks, you may put a page counter on Tome of Legends. That's huge. You're doing a lot of attacking with this deck. Even if you have Rograkh out, dealing for 0 damage, as long as no one's attacking it or blocking it and dealing it damage, it survives, and you get a page counter on this. Pay 1, tap it, remove a page counter from Tome of Legends. You get to draw a card. Amazing. Black Blade Reforged. 2 colorless mana for a legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control. Equipped to a legendary creature, 3. Regular equip cost 7. Rograkh, with 3 lands out, becomes a 3/4 instead of a 0/1 with first strike, menace, and trample. Awesome. Fire Shrieker, 3 colorless for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature has double strike. Equip cost 2. There's that double strike, which I didn't really explain earlier. So first strike in combat, if a creature has first strike, it deals its damage first. And then if the creature survives that, they both deal remaining damage to each other. Double strike means that it deals its damage first. So you have a 2/1 and it's fighting a 2/2. It deals 2 damage to the 2/2 and kills it. Then the additional double strike damage would be the 2 again to either the player or if the creature survived to kill it. It's a really, really useful ability, especially if you get larger creatures in your deck, and also works with Akroma to add an additional +1/+1 buff to whatever creature it's attached to. Loxodon Warhammer. 3 colorless mana for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +3/+0, has trample and lifelink. With Akroma in play, equipped creature gets +5/+2, has trample and lifelink. Equip cost 3. Sunforger. Oh boy. This is a fun one. 3 colorless mana, artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +4/+0. Doesn't really do anything with Akroma, but you can pay a red and a white. Unattach Sunforger to search your library for a red or white instant card with a converted mana cost 4 or less, and cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then shuffle your library. Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile, Teferi's Protection, Deflecting Palm, Red Elemental Blast. You can use this to get a counter spell to counter one of your opponent's blue spells that's trying to counter your spell. Great, very versatile card in any Boros deck. Sword of Vengeance. 3 CMC, artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has first strike, vigilance, trample, and haste. So, with Akroma in play, equipped creature gets +6/+4, has first strike, vigilance, trample, and haste. I should go back. This does not give additional +1/+1s if the creature already has first strike, vigilance, or trample. So if it has trample twice, it only gets 1 +1/+1. It doesn't get 2 +1/+1. So it's not always +6/+4. Haunted Cloak. 3 colorless mana, artifact equipment. Equipped creature has vigilance, trample, haste, equip cost of 1. Power Matrix. 4 colorless mana, artifacts. Tap. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains flying, first strike, and trample until end of turn. This one is well loved, but it's cool. Got some Canadian masks. Older cards always look a little cooler when they're a little beat up. Just don't pay a lot for them. Commander's Insignia. Creatures you control get +1/+1 for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. So this kind of works like Opal Palace. You've cast Rograkh 3 times and Akroma once. Your creatures will get +4/+4. You cast Rograkh once and Akroma once, +2/+2. So it counts it for each time you've cast each commander. On Sarah's Wings, enchant creature. Enchanted creature is legendary, gets +1/+1, has flying, vigilance, and lifelink. And this is just a really big value card here. Smothering Tithe. Yep, it's a tithe. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2 colorless. If that player doesn't, you create a colorless treasured artifact token that says tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. This isn't really a ramp card because the 4 CMC casting cost is a little high, but it's definitely value later on in the game if you have to be moving your equipments around or recasting your Akroma Commander or some of your larger spells in the deck. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We're not going to do a lands portion because I can kind of show you real quick what I have right now. Spectator Seating and Command Tower are the only really non-basics that we haven't gone over yet, besides Plains and Mountains. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the deck tech, and we're going to get in some closing thoughts in the next segment. Well, everyone, that's it. This is the end of the video. Hope y'all appreciated my tech there. Any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, anything you think could make this deck better, please leave in the comments below. As always, like, subscribe, and share. If you don't like it, hit the don't like button. Or dislike. Yeah, either one. Same thing. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed all the weapons, equipment, enchantments, everything that I have in this deck to help you take your Boros Legion, led by Akroma and Rohgahh, and run over your opponents. Until next time, this is Jeremy with East Coast EDH, signing off.